Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of Vice City Stories. We're moving on to finishing up the Empire missions, and now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the drug running racket missions. Now these are my favorite ones. The people ask me, what's your favorite illegal business in Vice City Stories? It's the drug racket, it's this one, and as you guys can see, this is a cocaine operation. So let's start this up, and I'll talk about this. These missions, I actually do remember these missions. These missions have kind of cutscenes, unlike the other ones. A deal has been arranged for 1915. Meeting in the parking garage near the shopping mall. You're buying drugs off some dealers who work Vice Point. Okay. Now, basically, how these missions work is you take a car. Oh, you're okay. So in this case, we're buying drugs. Okay. I think you also sell drugs, but, in this case, we're buying drugs. Okay. I think there's ones where you go with cash, and then ones where you actually sell the drugs. But, okay. So there's 6 jobs in this one in total, and when you go to the deals, like, a few different things can actually happen when you go to the deal, and sometimes the deal can go completely smooth. Nothing bad will happen at all, and they will pay you, everyone leaves, and that's it. But sometimes other situations can happen. I remember I have the guidebook for Vice City Stories, but I have that back in my parents' house, and when I read the guidebook, it says that there's like so many different situations that can happen, and I'll talk about those as we do these missions. But this is very 1980s, 1980s drug trade Miami theme right here. This is very Scarface theme, this business. In the 1980s, cocaine was an epidemic. Cocaine is a problem still today. But in the 1980s, this stuff was everywhere. This stuff was so common on the streets, being sold illegally. These drug lords were making so much more than what they're making right now. It was a really bad problem. And what ended up happening was in the 1990s, later on, cocaine turned to crack. So the cocaine epidemic kind of stopped in the 90s, but then the crack epidemic began. And the crack epidemic was really bad. My city, New York, where I grew up, for instance, the crack epidemic became really, really bad. Okay. So let's go meet these, dealers here. Take this car here. And I don't think people realize how much money these drug lords made. These drug lords made like hundreds of millions of dollars. Wow, that cop didn't get my car, but they made hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, these drug lords are some of the most richest and powerful people out there. Okay, let's see what happens here.
I love you, man.
Not a good idea to be doing, get the drugs. Not a good idea to be doing a, deal literally right in the, right in front of the shopping mall. Pretty bad idea. So, okay, so we got a bunch of cocaine in the back there. We're gonna take it back to the warehouse now. I hope if they ever do a Vice City remake, they do some drug missions, because Vice City was kind of lacking that. They had that in the ice cream business, but it was kind of lacking, like, the deal aspect like this. But the best game that I saw, that I've ever played, that involves, like, you know, drug crimes, the best game that's, I played on that is Scarface. The Scarface game, that's the best game, because you can, like, organize drug deals, you go to the islands, you meet the drug supplier, you try to negotiate a price, then you load the stuff back into a boat, you take it to Miami, you smuggle it into Miami, you watch out for the Coast Guard, and then you sell it, through your businesses, which you use as a front. And so that was really well done in Scarface. That was, like, you know, really criminal themed. And, you know, I like this type of stuff in games. Like, you know, a lot of games should have this theme to it, like, you know, this criminal theme to it. I just don't like this, you know, over-the-top action or futuristic stuff, or, you know, I like it when it's serious, has a dark, you know, atmosphere to it. You know, something like bad that goes on, like the drug trade. This goes on. This is a pretty bad thing that goes on. And Vic hates drugs so much, but he ends up dealing it even though he hates it so much because it makes him a lot of money really fast. Because when you think about it, you know, would Vic has a choice to either go to like a job that, you know, he'd probably be doing a lot of manual labor. You know, he got thrown out of the army, got dishonorably discharged. He probably wouldn't be able to find a job in many places. You know, he does some, you know, dead-end job, or, you know, he does this, and he gets millions of dollars. So even though he hates it, he does this because I guess he prefers this over the alternatives, even though it's really bad. And as you guys can see, you get paid a lot better on these missions too. Right there, mission passed, $1,300. So these are kind of like, you know, they have cutscenes to them. These missions are a little bit different. Okay, let's go and start up our next mission here. So these are my favorite missions, are the drug running missions. Raw deal. Oh, that's on the other island. Okay. Not too far from the airport at the docks, Vice City docks we're meeting them at. Deal has been arranged for 1:15. You're selling drugs to a couple of lowlifes who hang around Vice Port. Okay. Get back outside. The vehicle has the drugs in it. Okay. So now you see, it gets mixed up. So in one mission we were buying drugs, in this mission we're actually selling drugs. So it kind of changes it around. And usually the people that in the drug world, usually the people that sell the drug the people that sell the final product illegally, those are the people that make the most amount of money. So the people that the drug lords that grow them, they tend to sell them to they'll sell them to buyers who then will try to sell them all over the place. And the thing is though, even though like a lot of drugs are, you know, grown outside of the like cocaine for instance are grown and manufactured outside the US, the reason that the cartels and such, the reason that they try to bring drugs into the US and into Europe, the reason that they risk like going all the way so far to Europe is because they can make so much money if they bring it into other countries. I'll explain it a little bit here. Much more than if they sell it in their country.
You say deal, we say steal.
So this is one of the situations that you can encounter. The buyers are trying to rip us off. Get out of here now. No deal here. So that's one situation that can happen. There's another situation where there can be the police, a rival gang, and there's actually one that's actually kind of like kind of suspicious. I'll explain that one. I don't want to spoil what happens, but there's one kind of unexpected. Okay, gotta watch out for the buyer's associates here. They're coming after us. So now what I was saying about it is, say for instance, like in Scarface, in like, take the example of Scarface for example. You know Sosa, Bolivian drug lord. Now Sosa was trying to sell drugs to Frank, Frank Lopez, who was a drug lord in Miami. So Frank wasn't growing the cocaine and manufacturing it. Sosa was doing that for him. And so what would happen is Sosa would grow it, he'd sell it by a key which is a kilogram. That's what they would sell it in. And so these you know, today from what I read, it's like between $15,000 to $17,000 for a kilogram of cocaine. That's kind of like those white bricks that you kind of like see in movies. And so the drug lords will basically sell it by that. And so how the business was working illegally in Scarface was Sosa was making a deal with Frank. He sent Frank sent Tony and Omar as his representatives to try to negotiate a deal. And as we know from that negotiation, Sosa found out that Omar used to be a snitch and had him killed. He spared Tony because he felt that Tony wasn't lying. I guess Sosa kind of also liked that Tony was able to kind of stand up for himself. Mission 3, hijinks. Okay, so I guess we're gonna see what happens here. So basically, in Scarface, if you remember that scene, they were negotiating on a price on the drugs, and so Sosa would agree on a specific amount, you know, $10,000 a kilogram or something, like, for example, and Frank would agree to buy that. Then what would happen is Sosa would send it to a specific location, so he would cover part of the trip, and Tony said, why don't you send it over to Panama, and then we'll take it over from Panama, and we'll take it all the way up to the United States. Now, at the time, Panama was actually a narco state at the time. It was run by a man called Manuel Noriega, who was a dictator of Panama. He came to power in 1983. And if you guys might remember him from Black Ops 2, it's the same guy in Black Ops 2 that Woods and Mason tried to arrest. That guy. The U.S. ended up invading Panama, and they ousted Noriega from power. But basically, Noriega was a dictator who worked with drug lords. So what happened is drug lords would send their cocaine and other drugs and other illegal, you know, materials into Panama. And what would happen is they would pay off Noriega a certain percent. So they'd pay him off a certain amount, and Noriega would look the other way. He'd say, okay, you can keep the drugs in Panama, you just keep paying me, and it's fine. And then they would basically use Panama as a hub in between to get it from South America all the way up to North America. And so they would smuggle it from that point. So Tony was basically saying to Sosa, you know, you smuggle it all the way to Panama, and then we'll take it from there. And then Tony was telling Sosa that, you know, we have to deal with a lot of stuff. We have to deal with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, we have to deal with Coast Guard, Navy, all this other stuff. And so the reason that drug lords try so badly to get cocaine into, like, the United States is because there's a lot of people that are willing to buy it, a lot of drug users that are willing to buy it. But secondly, because they make a lot more money. Because think about it this way. When they take that cocaine and they take it all the way up from South America to North America, and they get through the Coast Guard, they get through the DEA, they get through all those obstacles, and they finally get it to North America, they can charge a lot more money for that cocaine, because they can say that, you know, we had to get it through all this other stuff, so because it traveled so much, the price of it increases dramatically. And so it can go from being $15,000 a kilogram to like 20, 21, 22, 23,000. So it can go up by $10,000 a kilogram. And think about it, that these guys are moving several hundred kilos at once. Think of all the money that they're making. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars. But at the same time, they're making all that money of people suffering. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars off of drug addicts, off of people suffering. And all the crimes that are also committed because of the drugs, all the drug wars, the gang crime, and also drug addicts constantly break into houses for, you know, to try to get money for their for their habits. So, you know, drugs are just such a catalyst for problems.
I love you, man.
That's why the penalty for drugs are just so, like, so heavy. That's why. Oh, there's cops. Okay, I gotta watch out. Gotta get it back to the warehouse. Great. The DEA were monitoring the deal. Okay, so Drug Enforcement Administration, just like I said. Okay, we're gonna take this to the pay and spray and try to lose the cops there. And now, like I told you guys, so imagine how much more money they can get when they sell it in the United States. But now think about how much more money they could get if they sell it in Europe. If they smuggle it all the way over to Europe. Imagine how much money they could then make if they smuggle it all the way across the ocean. And so, drug lords will try the most ridiculous things to smuggle, like, wow, 3 stars already, look at these roadblocks. The cops in the old GTA games were, like, really aggressive, they constantly, like, smash into you, okay. Damn, all these roadblocks, okay. Come on, get out of my way. Oh my god, how many roadblocks are there? Oh no. I literally just backed up into them. What a mistake there. Like how the cops are just gonna ignore me now. But that should be easy. The rest of the trip should be easy now. So, like I was saying, drug lords will do the most ridiculous things to get drugs into other countries, to smuggle them in. They will you occasionally hear about that story every few months where like somebody gets caught at the airport trying to smuggle like tons of cocaine and other stuff like that. But usually for the most part they don't do it with like airliners anymore. They don't try to do it through the airports. They'll either have their own private like airfields where they'll try to run it, like kind of like Ghost Recon Wildlands actually had that done pretty well. They explained that pretty well, how the cartel like has their own private airfields, or they'll smuggle it on ships, or they'll actually use submarines. And yes, the cartel uses submarines. People are like, what? They have submarines? Yes, they do have submarines. They're not as advanced as like military submarines, for instance, but they can hide pretty well from law enforcement, and they can travel large distances. Now, I'm not sure if some of those submarines can travel all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, but they can definitely travel from like South America all the way up to North America. So that's definitely a possibility. And also, another way that the cartel actually smuggles drugs in is they use mules. And basically, what a drug mule is a drug mule is somebody that has ingested tons of drugs. And so the drugs are actually in bags. So they're like wrapped in bags. And so basically it won't, the drugs won't, you won't the person that's smuggling them in their stomach won't digest them. Well, how did they get the drugs out? Usually they'll make the person vomit, or they might even kill the person. So usually the people that are drug mules are people that are being taken advantage of, people that are being forced to do it, people that are being threatened. In GTA 4, they actually had, in the Lost and Damned, they had a mission with a drug mule, with Marta, I think her name was. So Elizabeth wanted you to pick her up from the airport. There's also this other ridiculous thing that I read about once where the cartel, what they will do is they will target people specifically that they know are not going to be suspects. So the cartel might target people like, for instance, like an example is like an English teacher. Like they might target like somebody that's like maybe like for instance, like an American, like that's an English teacher that might go to Mexico to teach English, and so they're going back and forth between the border almost every single day, and so the border guards know this is like an English teacher that goes to Mexico every day, so they're not likely to be searched. So basically, the cartel will target people that they know are not suspects, have no criminal past or anything like that, and go through the border regularly, and what they will do is they'll break into that person's car, and they'll actually hide drugs in the car. They'll hide drugs under the wheels, they'll hide drugs somewhere in the trunk, somewhere where the person won't even realize it. And so what happens is the person wakes up in the morning, gets in their car, drives to the border, and doesn't even realize that there's tons of cocaine found in their car. And so what ends up happening is the border guards decide to search that person one day and find tons of cocaine in their car. And basically the idea of this is that the person gets across the border, no problem, and then what happens is the cartels will then track the car down. They'll put maybe some type of GPS device into it so they know exactly where it is. They'll find the car and they'll retrieve the drugs once they've been smuggled across the border. So that's a real thing that they do. And the people have no idea that their cars are being actually stuffed with drugs. Imagine how scary that is. Just imagine how scary that is. You wake up one day, you're driving your car, you go through the border crossing starts searching your car, they find tons of cocaine in your own car which you weren't aware of. Imagine how scary that is, and imagine what can end up happening to you. Now, how do you prove that to a court of law at that point, that you didn't know about that? That's scary. However, though, a lot of courts are aware of this. They know what the cartels have been doing, so, a lot of times, I would say that people don't always have to fear, but at the same time, you also gotta really watch out, and you really gotta, you gotta watch out for that stuff. So even if you face if that happens to somebody,
You're my man, Papi.
even if they face no legal repercussions, they can face repercussions from the cartel. So the cartel might find out that this person found drugs in the car and reported it to the police, and that's really, really, really bad. That person is gonna be targeted. Okay. Aw, damn, I don't want to flip this car here. Okay, so what ended up happening here is this is another situation. The drugs are fake. The drugs aren't real. So now we go and get the money back.
Steer around my vessel, baby.
Oh, I don't want to cancel the mission. Okay.
Get your grubby mitts off me.
Oh, go catch the real criminals, lady boy.
Oh no.
Ah,
Ah,
shit,
damn.
get on with it.
I hate when that happens. That's so annoying when stuff like that happens. Damn. Okay, well, no big deal. I can just you know, I can just try again. It saves the progress of where you left off, so it's not that bad.
Anytime, man.
The stuff is fake. Kill the dealer. Okay. So we got ripped off here. So let's get the money back then. Get it back to the... Oh, no, not again. Now, doing something like this, like crossing like a drug lord or a drug runner, selling them fake drugs, this is most certainly death. Those guys made the stupidest mistake ever. But the thing about these drug lords and these drug runners is these are some of the most evil, cold-blooded people out there. Like, there's a lot of criminals out there, but the drug lords and the drug runners, these guys are like some of the most worst people ever. You know, and the way that they kill people, and you know, the horrible things that they do, some of the bad things that they do, not even the mafia would do that. And that just shows you, if it's too much for the mafia even, and the mafia, as bad as they are, if some of the things the drug lords do is too much for them, then this shows you just how evil these drug lords and these drug runners are. Vic's nothing like those people. Like, the Mendez brothers and Diaz are perfect examples of, like, you know, drug lords. You know, really bad people in general, no redeeming factor about them. Vic's not like that. Vic's just, you know, a good guy that ended up making a lot of really bad decisions in his life and ended up ruining his life. So, you know, that's just Vic. You know, he keeps making bad decisions, and he realizes it, but he keeps doing it because he makes a lot of money from it. He certainly doesn't enjoy doing the bad things. Like, the Mendez brothers, they enjoy doing the bad things that they do. Diaz enjoys doing the bad things that he does, but Vic doesn't. Vic hates being a drug dealer. He hates doing these things. The drugs, you know, like I said, they hurt so many people. They kill so many people. It's such a evil business. But I highly suggest you guys watch Scarface if you've never seen Scarface, Rival Gang. Oh, this is probably the one where the rival gang ambushes the deal. Deal has been arranged for 11:30. This doesn't look too far from where the place is. I highly suggest you watch Scarface, because Vice City and Vice City Stories was heavily based on Scarface. If Scarface didn't exist, these two games wouldn't exist. Because that's why you have 1980s Miami or 1980s Vice Cities, because of Scarface. And like I was saying about Sosa, Sosa is probably the most accurate drug lord that I've seen in like a movie. Like that, Sosa represents the typical, like, you know, really powerful drug lord. You know, somebody that's like that. Like, Sosa is that type of person in Scarface that will, like, joke around, laugh with you, you know, eat dinner with you, but he's really like a cold-blooded, evil man. He's a really, really bad man on the inside. That's what Sosa, he's pure evil. He's a really, really bad guy. Tony Montana is like a saint compared to Sosa. Even though Tony, how bad as he is, he's nowhere near as bad as Sosa.
It's cool, baby. Real cool.
It's cool. Yup, that happens now. The sharks. So that's the gang. Well, we got both the drugs and the money, so we profited here. There are more sharks after you. And the sharks, these guys were in, In Vice City Stories, they were a really powerful gang, but in Vice City they became really weak because Vic like took over their businesses and like really you know, wiped them out. But like, think about Sosa in Scarface. Think about when Omar is killed in Scarface, and just think about how brutal that death was. Like, you know, just throwing him out of torturing him, and then hanging him from a helicopter. That's, you know, the type of people that you have when you have like drug lords, and that's who Armando Mendez is based on. So the point that I'm making is these are some really, really bad guys. And in Scarface, I'm gonna say major spoiler here for people that didn't see Scarface, but in the movie, the one good thing that Tony does in the movie, Mission 6 offshore score. Okay. This is the final mission. Deal has been arranged for 16:15. Okay, let's go there. This is the Vice City docks. So, when Tony meets Sosa at his mansion, and Sosa talks about, you know, his problems and how he can help Tony with his legal problems, it shows you just the level of corruption and the amount of power that these drug lords had, especially in the 1980s. How they had all these government officials on their payroll. They had the generals. They had they had media. They had the guy from Washington. The guy from Washington was most likely a CIA agent. So the guy that was there was a CIA corrupt like government American government official that was at Sosa's mansion. That guy was probably CIA. Because there's a lot of conspiracies that the CIA dealt in drugs, especially in the 1980s and 90s, just to make a lot of money from it. Torino in San Andreas is actually based on that. So Mike Torino, he's actually based on that whole conspiracy that the CIA that they had actually profited from the from cocaine. But anyways, let's see, where are we going? Where is this deal here? Oh, it's actually not that far. So anyways, Sosa in Scarface talks about this guy. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but basically the guy is going on like Japanese, American, European TV, and he's talking about the drug trade, and he's specifically calling out Sosa, and so Sosa wants him dead, and so Tony is sent to New York to help what was his name? I'm trying to remember. Sosa's hitman. I forgot the guy's name. But anyways, what ends up happening is they put a bomb in the guy's car, and the guy's kids get in the car. And so Tony doesn't want to detonate it. He says, no, we're not going to do this if there's kids in the car. And that was and the thing is, the hitman wasn't listening to him and was going to blow up the car anyways. And so what Tony ended up doing was Tony shot and killed Sosa's hitman. And the guy ended up giving the speech at the United Nations. Sosa gets really angry. Tony is on coke at the time when he talks to Sosa, and basically Sosa starts threatening him and told him, I told you not to mess with me. Tony threatens Sosa, then Sosa sends over like a hit squad to Miami, and that whole scene with the shootout, Tony ends up dying. Now, the whole point in that movie was the one good thing that Tony did in the whole movie. The one good thing he did in the whole movie when he didn't want to kill the kids. Tony saw how bad that was. He didn't want to do it. The one good thing he does in the movie, and he gets killed for it. That was the whole point of it, because it shows you just how evil these drug lords are. And now, when the Scarface movie first came out, a lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people were saying, what if Tony just told Sosa there was kids in the car and he wasn't on coke at the time when he yelled at him on the phone? Maybe Sosa's reaction would have been different. No, Sosa's reaction would have been the exact same, and the Scarface game actually shows that well. Sosa has actually told about the kids in the car in the Scarface game, and Sosa doesn't care about it. So, that shows you how evil Sosa is. Sosa is pure evil. He's evil, just pure evil. Tony's a bad guy, but he's nowhere near as bad as Sosa. Sosa's just evil. Tony's a bad guy, but Sosa's evil.
Remember, just say snow.
Get the jet ski full of money to the jetty. Okay. Vice City Stories had the jet skis, which Vice City didn't have. But these are really fast. Like, I can get across the map really fast, no problem. But that's exactly how these drug lords are, just like Sosa. whoever they kill, they don't care who they kill. They don't care who it is. Even if it's kids, they don't care. As long as they're making money, they're selling their drugs, they don't care. That's just how bad these guys are. These are, like I said, the most cold-blooded monsters. Your drug running reputation has maxed out. You're now the smack daddy. So that's it. That's the final drug running mission. So those are my favorite missions in the Empire. We still have the smuggling missions. Oh, and we got paid also. We got the smuggling missions, and we also got the the robbery missions. I will be doing those soon. So we got $48,000. Nice. So we're making a decent amount of money from our businesses now. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I'll have the next part up for you guys as soon as I can. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. And also, if you guys ever want to watch me play Scarface, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking, can you play Scarface? I've already done Scarface. I did it last year. I'll have the playlist up on the screen right now if you guys want to check it out. So thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one. Take care, everyone.